Hi there, guys. Welcome. We are at the Fullerton Community Center doing their bridal show here. And with me here is fellow shutterbug, POUYA. You're the first person, actually the first photographer I would have interviewed in this channel.
I'm honored. Thank you.
So it's kind of cool.
Mac and I look up to you guys, and like
I am
feel
only
like,
5'3". That's highly improbable.
all right, that's fair. But you and Sheila, we feel like we have so much to learn from you guys because you've been doing this for a lot longer than we have. We're pretty new to it.
Which just means I'm old.
It doesn't. That's a better way of saying yeah.
Yeah, almost 20 years now doing this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I have a lot of old person stories because of that.
What do you think is like the average lifetime of a photographer in the wedding industry? Because it can be high stress, and people start and like kind of burn out, and they're like, I just want to do commercial photography.
It's only high stress when you don't have a system yet. But once
good.
you have, like when I train people, I don't train them on photography really. Watch YouTube. You can learn photography. What I'm going to teach you in is weddings, like how to be in a wedding.
Yeah.
And how that process goes. Because you pretty much, one of the things that I always say, the one way you'll know someone's new at wedding photography is how much they run to things. Because when you're new, like you're like, oh, that's happening.
Yeah.
And then you don't know like to be ahead of everything. Oh, or also like controlling everything.
Right.
Where let's say they start a speech and you weren't ready. Well, you can like nicely and say, well, hold on, we gotta set these things up to make sure that we capture you.
Right.
Or just different ways like that. So much of wedding photography to me is not about wedding photography. It's about systems, it's about having the service, it's about speed.
That's true.
And you know, because one of the things too is, and this is what I was gonna ask you to get your thoughts on. Let's say here at the show, there's a lot of wedding photographers. And I feel like as a bride, it's kind of hard to figure out like which one's even right for me. I mean, budget's one thing, right? There's gonna be a big range in budget. What do you know the budget to be these days? Like, what's the range?
I think like anywhere from 10 to 20% of your wedding budget is pretty standard for our Orange County and LA area.
So like 3,000 to
yeah, if your wedding's
$3,000 to $5,000,
$20,000,
2,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
2,000 to 4,000 would be your
Okay,
photography.
that's about the ballpark. I like to keep abreast on what the prices are there, and we like to keep our proportion, like we tend to be in the middle.
Right.
So when you're looking around all these photographers and you're looking through Instagram and those,
Yeah.
how can they even distinguish one from another, dude?
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think there's a lot of really great wedding photographers like at this show, and you can't really go wrong with your photographer at this caliber. If you're getting your cousin to take your photos, that's a different story. Or if you're like, oh, I'm gonna go. Everyone has a budget and they need to stick to it. And the realization that we had is after our wedding, because a lot of how we set up our business as wedding photographers is redeeming our experience in the wedding, like planning our own wedding and hiring vendors. What we realized is that your photographers and maybe your videographers are the people that you spend the most time with on your wedding day.
Yes.
They show up when you're getting ready.
Yeah.
And your soon-to-be husband or wife isn't even there yet. And they often stay with you until your send-off, and they're the last people you say goodbye to because they take your photos at the end. And so when we were kind of setting up our business, we realized there's a lot of great photographers out there.
Yeah.
But what can't be replicated is the people that you invite to your wedding, right? The photographers that you bring, you decide to have every moment of the way. And so going back to what you were saying with like planning and being an experienced wedding photographer and being able to have foresight, I think it's important because you don't want like a stressed out photographer or like a controlling photographer at your wedding. You just want someone that's like pleasant to be around, that's going to make you feel at ease. And so we joke that we're marriage cheerleaders first.
Cool.
And we're photographers in disguise.
Awesome. I love that.
Because we want you to like feel supported throughout the process, and even your wedding day, like we're your cheerleaders there, and we're also there to capture it.
That's awesome. I love that philosophy. And in summary too would be, it's kind of not about the image, is it? It's really about the experience that you have with the person. So one way of saying, the way I put it, it's like, make sure you just vibe with the person.
Right.
Make sure you can even kind of be friends with them, you know, because if you can't, imagine 8 hours of that, 10 hours of that with someone that you don't enjoy being around.
Yeah.
So I always also advise brides, hey, make sure that you do an engagement shoot, because that's 1 hour of an engagement shoot. Multiply that by 10, by 8.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
going to be
the
the
trial
experience.
run. Yeah.
So you don't want to discover that on the day of your wedding, going like, oh man, I hate this guy.
Yeah.
His images are great, but she's so annoying.
Yeah.
So that's great insight. That's awesome that you have that. I'm just curious.
Uh-huh.
When you're looking at other photographers and stuff, like, do you have any pet peeves?
I mean, it's hard to, judge different photographers. Everyone has different styles. And, it's hard to judge because, something might look good to someone that doesn't look good to someone else, depending on, like, how old they are, or, like,
That's
how
true.
much media they're consuming.
You know,
And it's so funny because, like, all the things that we try to get away from, it's like, oh, they're making a comeback in the style. So
that's super
I
fair.
guess
That's
it's
super
hard
fair.
to speak to other photographers' work, but for us personally, when we edit people, when you take our photos, think about the styling of our photos, when we edit them, we want to make sure that it's something that they can look at in like 10, 20, 30 years, and for the whole thing to not be dated and
Where
look like,
hey,
oh,
that's a
that was
2000s
popular
picture.
back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a period of time where people were taking like candid photos a lot.
Sure,
Like
okay.
the whole wedding would be candid. Or like the blurry photos now. That's like a thing, right?
That's come in, yeah.
And we're like, okay, we'll do some blurry photos, but we're not gonna just give you a wedding of just
Blurry photos.
because it's popular.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I even told Sheila, I was just talking to her yesterday, and I was telling her, I almost have to ask the question, what is the aesthetic criterion that is societally acceptable today of what is artistic now?
Oh,
Because
right,
it has
right.
changed over decades.
Yeah.
And in a sense, we're commercial photographers because we're not just expressing our own view of the reality,
Yeah.
but rather going with what is, you kind of have to go with slightly popular and then add in yourself,
Right.
right? You can't just go full me. Unless you're like a high level photographer where like you're charging 10, 15,000 and like, this is my style and this is
Right.
my signature. But like mid-range, we have to kind of see what's popular, add our own twist.
Right. Right.
And so we're always constantly adapting to the shifting aesthetics. And it's both fun because it keeps you fresh. It's frustrating also as an artiste.
Right. Yeah, in some ways you're hiring an artist to come do their craft at your event, right?
Yes.
Like as you would hire a painter to,
Right. Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I think for us, when I think about that, it's more about like capturing the emotion
Yes.
rather than like thinking about the style. So like often people will say like, we have like a realistic editing, style. And we just like, when we're editing, we're trying to remember, okay, what did this event feel like? And how can we reflect that in the final product so they can look at it and like, oh, this feels like how the night felt, And sometimes the tools that we use can really change that, right? Like we can put a flash and point it up at the ceiling and it'll just light up the whole room, but it totally takes the emotion out of the
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
image, right? And that's really easy for us to do. And every image comes out like nicely lit, but it just doesn't feel like the event felt.
So I'll say, I love this guy's philosophy on things. Not every photographer you're going to speak with will have that kind of depth of thought that actually is thinking about how to express the mood, the couple, and just being cheerleaders. So, dude, keep it up. That's an amazing start.
Thank you.
Their branding is awesome. I always admire your booth.
Before we finish,
What's
this
up?
is something I want to talk to, because I know you and Sheila you guys value marriage
Yes.
and the family. You guys
Yes.
have a beautiful family and you guys are people of faith. So what does it mean to you to support just marriage through wedding photography and documenting?
That's a great question. So I feel like our role as wedding photographers, wedding videographers, It's to capture the beginning of the formation of a family. And the formation of the family is the foundation that society gets built upon. And to me, when marriage is disappearing, because I see that these days, the foundation of society starts to become shaky.
Yeah.
If our work can help marriages have that way of remembering that passion that they started from and help that rekindle them a few years down the road, 10 years down the road, and go, wow, we were so in love, and let's get to the root of that.
Yeah.
Then I think that's, and then also for the generations that follow, like when the kids can see like, oh man,
Yeah.
look how in love our parents are. I want that for myself too. I want to build my foundation like that as well and pass that on. I think that's the value of what we bring to the table as wedding photographers, videographers, is like helping put an image and speaking and emotions to the beginnings of where family builds on and where society ultimately builds on. A little corny, but I'll stand by it.
That's how we feel too, and that's why I asked, because I know we both value marriage so much. We didn't start our photography business until we got married and realized, oh my gosh, marriage and coming together as one, it's a pretty sacred thing, and it would be an honor for us to be a part of that with other couples and walk alongside them through their planning process, and as much as we can influence with how we live out our marriage.
Dude, powerful.
Cool.
Thank you.
So
Great
good seeing
question.
you.
Great question.